Okay, so this was the week we got the big reveal of the network representative that they've been building up for a while now. The invisible man that's been pulling the strings and brought Sting back, who brought Christopher Daniels back and all that other stuff, turned out to be Mick Foley. Not really surprising, I think most people were predicting that. I was kind of underwhelmed. Personally, I was hoping for Desmond Wolfe. And I heard Mick's contract was coming up and he didn't want to re-sign, so I don't know what's going to happen there. But Mick did make sense at least, so I'm not going to complain. Then Mick changed the name of the show to iMPACT Wrestling, and you know, I'm ambivalent about that. I don't see it as a big deal, and it bothered me a lot more when they got rid of the six-sided ring. But if they're putting wrestling in their name, I hope that would mean that they'll be featuring a little more wrestling on the show. And that's what Mick was talking about when he said, as of now, wrestling matters again. And I'll say this, for one night, it felt like they did that. They had that big battle royal to close the show, and it went on for a while. Duh. And it was an alright match. You know, they managed to incorporate a lot of different feuds in there, so it wasn't just a big schmoz. Personally, I've never been a fan of battle royals myself. They always just seem too chaotic for my tastes. I think if this had been a gauntlet battle royal with not all 25 guys in the ring at one time, it would have been a lot better. But let's not nitpick too much here. It was a nice long main event, so good. I don't know how long they're going to keep this up. I think if the ratings dip below a 1.0, they'll probably just go back to total nonstop talking. But for now, I'm going to try to enjoy this. Predictably, they opened the show with the Jarretts again. Didn't like that. I think they're getting entirely too much TV time, but the segment was under 10 minutes, and that's much more tolerable than what they normally do. A lot of the time, these segments just drag on, and before you know it, like a quarter of the show has gone by, and it really kills the pacing of the show. There's no reason why you can't do these in under 10 minutes. And here, they did that. They got over everything they needed to quickly, and it didn't feel like they wanted the whole show to revolve around them. Thank you. And this led to the reveal of Kurt Angle's mistress later on. It turned out to be Chyna, not Isis the Amazon. The way I heard it, Isis was a backup plan in case Chyna flaked out or relapsed, so maybe the Jeff Hardy debacle taught them something. Am I happy it's not Isis? Yeah. But we're not exactly trading up here. When I said anyone but Isis, I guess I should have specified anyone who is young, talented, relevant, and not a drug addict. Seriously, I mean, after Jeff Hardy, is bringing in another person with a substance abuse problem really a good idea? And don't even try to give me the argument of, oh, well, this was the right call because she got a big crowd reaction. Yeah, it's called a nostalgia pop. They were popping because she's a former WWF star that they haven't seen in a long time. Hacksaw Jim Duggan gets a big crowd reaction. Should TNA sign him? Hell, Sting gets a big crowd reaction, but look at the ratings since he came back and won the world title. They haven't exactly been going up, have they? There are so many women from the indies that they could have used for this who would have been better choices. They just needed a big, tough, badass-looking chick who can wrestle. I could name 20 women off the top of my head who could fit that bill and would have been great in this role. Not to mention several really great talents that have had tryouts just recently, not counting Isis. And why not use one of them? Why did they go with Chyna of all people? Because she has history with Jeff Jarrett. Because they feuded in WWF like 13 years ago or however long ago it was. And for me, this was the final proof. If it wasn't obvious to everyone before this, it's obvious now. This entire feud from the very beginning has never been about anything more than keeping Jeff Jarrett relevant. And that's one of the main reasons why I think this guy needs to stay off TV. Because he always, without fail, falls back into this same old pattern. And what really infuriates me is that he could be doing so many things that would be so much more productive. If you have to feature Jeff Jarrett this much, instead of having him feud with Kurt Angle month after month after month, why not have him feud with someone who would actually benefit from it? Feuding with Jeff Jarrett again is a massive waste of Kurt Angle's time, but there's plenty of young talents who would get something out of that. Because Jeff Jarrett knows wrestling. What's more, he knows how to get a guy over, but he hardly ever does it. Probably the only time I've seen him do this in the last several years was with Crimson. And yeah, I didn't like the MMA poser gimmick, I thought it was stupid, but he annoyed so many people with this that when Crimson finally came out and kicked his ass, guess what? Crimson got over instantly. Jarrett could be doing that for so many people on the roster, but But instead, you have him burying Samoa Joe, going over Kurt Angle for months on end. And look, I respect Jeff Jarrett. The company would not exist without him. I understand that. But the problem I always seem to have, going all the way back to when TNA first started, is that with the stuff he knows, with the wrestling mind that he has, he could be building so many young talents. He could be helping to create so many new stars. But it always seems like he's more interested in helping himself. And I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but it sure is what it seems like he's doing. And that's really unfortunate, and you can just add it to the long list of things that are ultimately holding this company back. So no, I don't want Chyna there. She didn't even look excited to be there. As I understand it, she's on a handshake deal right now, so hopefully she'll be gone when this feud is over. They had a Knockouts tag team match with Mickie James and Tessmacher versus Tara and Madison Rayne. I actually rewatched this match a couple times because I noticed something really funny here. It starts out with Mickie and Tara in the ring. While these two are wrestling, you can see the crowd reacting. You can hear the crowd reacting. And why? Because both these women are over. Then Madison Rayne tagged in. For the next few seconds, you can still see and hear the crowd reacting because Mickie James is on the offense. But when Madison goes on the offense, immediately the canned heat kicks in. And why is that? Because the live audience just died. Holy shit. After just two matches, Tessmacher is actually getting more crowd heat than Madison Rayne. Do you know how freaking sad that is? TNA, I know I've given you a lot of crap about this, but it is time to concede defeat. The Madison Rayne experiment has failed. Utterly and completely. It's time to give up on this loser and start pushing a heel knockout that can actually get fans to respond to her and that any self-respecting pharmaceutical company would not market as a surefire cure for insomnia. Tommy Dreamer and AJ Styles had a confrontation. Really didn't like this at all. Tommy's trying to be all cryptic and mysterious, saying, "Oh, you're too young to understand, AJ." When it's obvious that Immortal is leaning on Tommy and he has to play house with him to keep his job or something like that, which really makes Tommy look like a huge hypocrite after the whole thing with Rhino. So AJ wants Tommy in a match at Sacrifice, and this is a complete waste of time. We saw this feud less than a year ago, and it wasn't even that memorable then. This is so pointless because you know they're only doing it to postpone AJ versus Bully Ray until Slammiversary. That's the only reason they're doing it. And what makes it even worse is that Tommy's probably going to win at Sacrifice. They'll have Bully Ray interfere in the match or something. It's just going to be so pointless. Tommy shouldn't even be on TV anymore. Beer Money and Matt Hardy had a promo segment, and one thing was made perfectly clear by this exchange. James Storm has more charisma in his beer bottle than Matt Hardy has in his whole body. You know, James was showing a lot of intensity and anger and passion there, and Hardy's just this monotone blank slate, slurring his speech and everything. Is just, So Matt was kind of a downer here, but then the segment turned awesome when Matt's partner was revealed to be the biggest acquisition in pro wrestling history. The man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Braden Walker. One of the biggest WWE superstars of all time. A man who gave us so many classic moments that will be remembered forever in the annals of history. Like that match he had with Armando Estrada and that other guy he had a match with. Ooh, the time he talked to Matt Hardy backstage. And who could forget that time he stood on the stage with his hands on his hips? Oh, man. Hold on to your kneecaps, people. Business just picked up. Seriously, though, I think the rumor is that they plan to eventually put AMW back together so they can give Bobby Roode a singles run. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Beer Money have completely surpassed AMW at this point. Plus, they're one of the most overacts TNA have, and the linchpin of the tag division, which is really hurting right now. So, I don't know how I feel about this. Plus, Chris Harris still looked pretty chunky. He doesn't seem to have dropped any weight, but we'll see how he looks when he has to take his shirt off this Sunday. Sangriento and Suicide had another match. If you were going to do an X Division segment, I would think you'd want to do something to hype the title match at the pay-per-view, but apparently they've decided they don't care about that. Then Immortal came out and interrupted them, which I didn't like. During the match, Sangriento lifted up the mask and went like this. I'm guessing it'll be revealed at some point that it's Amazing Red under that thing, so I assume this is going somewhere, but in the meantime, they're just making the X Division guys look like worthless nobodies, and even if that's the point of this, to have them get revenge later on, this is the last thing the X Division needs right now. You don't have to treat them like they don't matter to get the angle over. You've already been booking them like they don't matter for the last several years. I mean, seriously, why would you want to book anyone on your roster like that? Unless they really are worthless nobodies, i.e. Murphy, Rob Terry, etc. They had a triple threat match with Crimson versus Abyss versus Samoa Joe. I have no idea why they put this match on free TV only to do Crimson versus Abyss on pay-per-view 3 days later, but honestly, I've given up trying to figure out stuff like this. I mean, who the hell knows why they do it? The match was less than 2.5 minutes long. It did have a clean finish, but if you want to build up a feud between Crimson and Samoa Joe, this is not the way to do it. The first thing you need to do is build Joe back up to the point where getting a win over him actually means something. But when he gets pinned that quickly, for any reason, it has the exact opposite effect. I did like that Crimson got the pin, and had this match been 10 or 12 minutes, I wouldn't be complaining. But as it is, the match was just too damn short to really benefit anybody. So Sacrifices this Sunday. Once again, they didn't even bother to announce the full card. And TNA, if you're still wondering why no one buys your pay-per-views, that's why. If you don't care enough to make your show look important, I'm not going to spend my money on it. It's that simple. Hell, you've got a title match on this show that has not been hyped up or mentioned even once since Lockdown. And the sad thing is, that'll probably be the best match of the night. I mean, shit, the main event of this show was a big match to determine the #1 contender for the world title at Slammiversary. And while it's good that they're announcing that as early as possible, it doesn't do anything to make you excited for Sacrifice, which is the pay-per-view TNA should want us to pay money for this Sunday. So I don't know what's going on here. Most of the Sacrifice build-up was pretty underwhelming. I'm sure there will be some good matches, but I'm just not that interested in any of them. And TNA caused that. Most of their pay-per-views are treated like afterthoughts these days, and that's really unfortunate. I don't know why they do it. The best we can hope for is that the matches deliver. That's really all they leave us with. Here is the usual notice that I send out via Twitter when the video gets posted every week. And here's another one. I sent it to Max Buck just for the hell of it. And here we have... what? Wait a minute. Well, I'll be damned.